Welcome to this brief overview on sunk costs with Dr. Michael Clark. The basic idea of a sunk cost is that a sunk cost is a cost that cannot be recovered at the time when the relevant decision is being made. If you honor sunk costs, meaning you allow these costs that cannot be recovered at the time of the decision to alter your choices going forward, then you are committing the sunk cost fallacy. Here are some examples of sunk costs. According to a survey administered by Goodreads.com, 38.1% of readers say they will finish a book they started reading no matter what, even if they hate the book. My favorite example that I have a hard time overcoming, the I might as well keep eating because I already bought the food idea of sunk costs. And then, of course, there's also the infamous, I might as well continue dating someone bad for me because I've already invested so much in them. We have to remember that sunk costs are sunk. Can you change what you did yesterday? No? Then move forward. We have a hard time thinking this way, even with reflection. Let's do a basic example or two to try and run through modeling sunk costs. So Richard Thaler gives an example of sunk costs impacting behavior in his book Misbehaving on tennis. A person pays $1,000 for a tennis club membership, but then gets tennis elbow. The person is now making a choice about continuing to play or not play, given that they already paid the $1,000 for the membership. Imagine if the person did not pay for the membership and a friend invited them out to the club to play. Once we're at stage 2, our choices should be consistent, but often they're not. The person who paid for the membership is likely to try to play through the pain and make the membership worth the while or worth the price they paid for it. The person who didn't pay for the membership simply makes the best decision about how happy currently playing makes them. Tennis elbow hurts and makes the experience very unpleasant and not worth it, even if the cost is free. Why do we play in the first scenario and not in the second? We're keeping the upfront sunk cost as part of our choice set going forward. We feel we have to make the $1,000 club membership worth the cost. When we pay for the membership and we do not play, we're admitting our mistake, and thus we feel the cost of stage 1, the $1,000 club membership, even though moving forward, we have no control over that cost. If we keep playing at stage 2, we never have to admit the error at stage 1, and thus we don't experience that stage 1 cost. We properly consider just what is currently under our control, stage 2 moving forward. If we properly considered sunk costs sunk throughout, we get the same actions in the no membership case as we do in the club membership case. But unfortunately, we can't always let sunk costs be sunk, and thus we see different behaviors when moving forward from stage 2, depending on what happened in the past at stage 1. Obviously, standard economic theory says this should not be the case. Let's look at one more quick example with a decision tree to see this again. Here we have a firm facing two scenarios with the option to invest or not invest. In scenario A, we can go through and say, at stage 1, we invested $5 million on this project. The project was completely ready to launch with no more investments or costs and was projected to have a 10% chance of bringing in $8 million. And here we sit with this 10% chance of bringing in $8 million and we're at stage 2. But right now, at stage 2, right before we launched, the project had an incredibly unfortunate accident that was no fault of your own. In order to move forward with the project needs an extra $1 million of investment.
It will fail completely and you will get 0 if you do nothing and quit here at stage 2. It will have the same chance of success as before you invest this $1 million and before the accident if you invest that $1 million. In other words, if you put in another $1 million, you have a 10% chance at getting $8 million. Imagine yourself in this situation. You just had a 10% chance at $8 million with nothing more to spend. And now it's whisked away from you for no reason. Are you willing to pay $1 million to get back into the game? You already put $5 million into this situation. You like to make smart investments, but what do? Invest or quit? In scenario B, you're looking at a brand new project. Right now, the project, totally different deal. You're going through. This project has the potential to strike it big, but it's a gamble that requires, again, a sizable upfront cost. It will fail completely if you don't invest in this project. If you stay out, you will get nothing from it. It, however, does have a chance to succeed if you invest $1 million. If you invest $1 million, the probability of success is 10%, and the gain would be $8 million. What do? Invest or do you stay out? We can see that the choices are actually the same given that stage 1 has already happened. With stage 2 decisions only moving forward, what we can go through and do is we can say we have a 10% chance at $8 million. And we can calculate the expected value of this gamble that we could take, this investment that we could make. Given that we are risk neutral, this is a bad idea. A 10% chance at $8 million when it costs $1 million to play has a net expected value of negative $200,000. We could invest nothing and have an expected value of 0. So we should always go with invest nothing at stage 2. Again, this is true going forward in scenario A or scenario B. The only thing that we can change is our motion going forward. We have a 10% chance at making $8 million. It doesn't matter if we already paid $5 million to get into this game or not.
While the choices at stage 2 are actually the same moving forward, we do not view them the same. If we invest at stage 2 in scenario A, we do not admit our past as a mistake, and we just make our decision going forward. However, if we do not invest at stage 2 in scenario A, we've basically admitted our past mistake at stage 1. And thus we admit into our decision making these past stage 1 costs. We have a hard time letting sunk costs be sunk because then we have to acknowledge the former loss, the mistake at stage 1. We want to avoid losses, even former ones, so badly that we sometimes create more losses going forward.
This example of the company investing shows us the beginnings of what can be referred to as an escalation situation. The sunk cost fallacy can start a vicious circle, sometimes referred to as this escalation situation. An escalation situation is a pattern of behavior where increasingly negative outcomes from a decision are undertaken to stay in alignment with decisions and actions previously made. Rather than alter their course and make the best decision going forward, we stay with the initial investment. With each additional decision in that direction, the commitment gets stronger and stronger, and the potential for even greater continuation with more net negative choices grows. In other words, once a project, whether it be a research and development effort, a marriage, a financial investment, or whatever it is, starts to go downhill, the sunk cost fallacy encourages people to make additional investments in that project. Once the additional investment has been made, unless it turns the project around and actually works out, people find themselves with an even greater sunk cost and may continue with more bad decisions to try and recoup that loss. The classic example of an escalation situation and the sunk cost fallacy is the Vietnam War. Once some troops died, it became impossible to withdraw because then those troops, they had died in vain. Thus we commit more troops, and unfortunately more of them will die. We honor the sunk costs and thus make decisions that have negative expected values going forward to try and recoup the earlier mistake, thus escalating our commitment. Why do we honor sunk costs then? Behavioral economics has an explanation. We hate losing, so we chase after these bad decisions way too long. We have trouble recognizing that sunk costs are sunk because we think with reference dependence and we hate losses from that reference point. How we experience loss, then, will be an important idea for behavioral economics to understand and explore.